Hi, welcome to today's video on optimizing file organization and collaboration using Office 365, part 2. My name's Jared.
And my name's Adam.
And we're both teachers and digital learning advisors with the Department of Education.
This session today is a live webinar recording. So it is a pre-recorded session. However, there is someone on the chat at all times to answer your questions. So please interact with that chat. It is a real person on there the whole time. They're also going to be posting any resources that are available from this session there as well. So feel free to call out anything as you go. If we move through something, you've got more questions, use that chat function and ask those questions and call out anything that you would like as we go.
And this will also be made available on-demand video where you can just click to the chapter that you'd like to watch.
Perfect. Before we go too far, we're going to obviously do our acknowledgement of country. Let's click through to the next page there. Perfect. We recognise the ongoing custodians of the land and waterways where we work and live. We pay respect to elders past and present as ongoing teachers of knowledge, songlines and stories. We strive to ensure every Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander learner in New South Wales achieves their potential through education.
So through this series, we've been looking at a learning sequence to help schools move down to build their knowledge of using cloud-based file storage. So the beginning video that we focused on our emerging group, which was schools that traditionally heavily used the file server and are very new to the cloud environment. The next step in the progression was looking at developing schools that had dabbled a little bit in this space, probably during COVID, and are looking to really harness more of those online cloud workflows. In our last video, we looked at schools that were consolidating what they have, where their files were living in multiple different spaces, consolidating that into one. And throughout that and the previous video, we looked at how teachers can improve their practice of getting work out to students using classroom features. But today's video, we're focusing on that refining stage. At this point, these are schools that are pretty confident in using the cloud by this stage, and just a few tips and suggestions on improving those workflows even further to make it a very, a really great space to be able to work in.
Yeah, perfect. And I guess really, Joe, we're looking kind of leveraging the power of, that cloud resource, the fact that everything can be connected, and starting to actually, utilize that to really boost what can be done in the cloud space. Before we do dive into some of this refining content, we'll just kind of call out, very similar to what we did last video, that some of the features that we cover here may not be for every single teacher in the school. Some of them might be setup processes or procedures that are done by particular staff members for everyone to interact with, but the actual building of them might be done by a computer coordinator, digital classroom officer, might be an executive member or something like that. So some of these tasks might be set up tasks by someone, but it will actually flow and be used by all staff at the school.
Absolutely. So some of the content that we'll run through in this video is looking at staff onboarding and offboarding processes. It's not something that is necessarily very profound, but definitely something that gets overlooked. So we will have a little bit of a quick look at that. We'll look at some of the digital procedures and processes, looking at how we store our collaborative data and a few methods of doing that, probably from a manual point of view. Looking at using in Teams, looking at using templates, how we can use fillable forms to improve our workflows, how to add a digital calendar to our team space, and also looking at a Power Automate workflow for approvals. Excellent. So let's jump out of this and some of our content. The first thing we want to look at today, as we said, was that onboarding and offboarding procedure. I guess for the longevity of using cloud workflows and processes is only as good as long as it keeps getting used. And as new staff come to the school, it'll definitely help them get up to speed. If someone's just aware of all the different things that may need to happen if someone comes to the school or leaves the school for that matter. So what happens when somebody leaves? I guess looking at this list here is revoking or granting their file privilege, depending whether they're leaving or joining. Who is going to do that and where do they might have access to? So what are some of the spaces where someone may need to be added or removed? Yeah,
so I guess you've got your standard kind of levels of access through that, manage staff access or manage my access. So that's that third dot point there. That's the normal processes, but you might have particular private channel. You might have built on that aspect and had some private channels or extra shared drives or other locations. I guess we're just making sure that everything is covered off, that they're not, staff aren't hanging around in places where maybe they don't need to anymore because they're not part of the school, or when you have new staff come in, that they may be added to the main space, but there might be a couple of other extra spaces that just need to be considered. So I guess just listing them out, knowing who has the rights to grant that access and who doesn't, especially when someone who is the person granting that permission leaves. then you need to make sure someone is filling that space. So as schools normally would do with onboarding and offboarding of particular processes, I guess just including this in that list of things to check and to do.
Yeah, I guess at this point in time, at the point of this recording, we're looking at, you have to identify what are your teacher spaces. Are there private channels? Do you have multiple teams, multiple shared drives? Do you need to manually add someone into there or remove them if they are leaving the school? The MMA, MSA process will be important to get that file level run through. But it's also good to probably, if someone new comes to the school, to be aware of how they do things, right? So in the previous video, we talked about setting up a really nice file structure. Just having some sort of document that is passed on to a new staff member to sort of outline, this is how we do things here. This is how we organize something. If you're organizing the school event, it goes in the school events channel in XYZ folder. That way, it'll just help the consistency and help people come up to speed with what they need to do.
Absolutely. And I guess with new staff, you just that second dot point there, you want to confirm their platform knowledge. They might have come from a Microsoft school and be coming to a Google school or vice versa. So you just want to make sure they're across the platform itself. So I know that if you've been very much in one ecosystem, changing ecosystems can be quite tricky in terms of those how to save things, where to save things, and all that kind of stuff. So including some induction material around that could be a little video that someone's created, or could just be conversation with the person in charge of that at the school. And as Jared already said, just talking through the file structure, when and where to save things, how to save things. You might have naming conventions, are a really great thing to talk about in terms of keeping consistency throughout the school and trying to manage that consistency with new staff. And we know that there are a lot of schools that do have very transient staff with lots of staff coming in and out. So having this kind of lockdown and a really great process and procedure that maybe the office staff can run through with them or an executive staff member can run through just helps to maintain that consistency moving forward and maintaining, I guess, good practice moving forward.
And that includes what happens from that student learning environment as well. Do you have a Google Classroom set up for that teacher taking over from another teacher? Have they been added in? Do they have they just been made familiar with that space and how you run it? And it also, I guess, extends from when people leave to go to another school. That's probably your point to what do you need to turn off. But if they're also exiting the DOE ecosystem, so anything that staff member may have shared out from their private space, if they're 90 days after they leave the department, those files are removed. So just to make sure that you spend a little bit of time with the outgoing teacher, making sure that anything that has been shared from their personal space has been taken care of in the right manner to make sure somebody else owns the file.
Yep, absolutely. And I guess that idea of leaving department or deleting content, you've got basically a 90-day limit at the first level of deletion. Yes. That does disappear after that period of time or moves to a lower level, which is a little bit harder to access, but really easy to access within that 90 days. There's a trash can that you can go and get it from there. But I guess it's just a matter of knowing that if you are leaving Department of Education, all of those things that sit within your single sign-on, so Google and Microsoft realm, they do disappear because you've lost access to that basically. So really good thing for those staff retiring and those sorts of things that probably got a lot of good content they do probably want to hang on to from their career, maybe to pass on to other teachers or just as something they want to hang on to. I guess they want to just lose everything, but another thing to be aware of. So it's just that onboarding, offboarding, they're coming up probably some of the key points that you just want to have a think about, have a talk about, come up with your own documentation or merge it with some of the existing documentation that you probably have in terms of staff coming on and off in terms of that.
Yep, absolutely. So moving on, the next area that we want to have a chat about is collaborative data collection. And quite often these are stored in our file spaces. You decide where you're going to save your file and in what format. Now, there are a lot of third-party applications out there that you may already be utilizing. You might be using Central or Canvas or some other third-party area where you're storing your markbook and things of that nature. But there are a few other tools and some things that we would like to highlight that from your file space and how you can get multiple files to talk to each other in recording the assessment data from your students. So I guess the first step that we are looking at is, first of all, have a bit of a think. How are your teachers taking, recording their assessment right now? I guess it's kind of at three levels, isn't it? There's the assessment that the teachers are doing in the classroom for the here and now and their formative assessment to move forward. Then there might be some data that you might gather from a grade. Now, it's probably a really good idea to make that probably a point of talking in their grade meetings or in their faculty meetings, that you have, I guess that you record your assessment in the same way. So then when you gather that data, you can gather, like draw trends from it. And likewise, you could also then look at a whole school data collection from some of that standardized testing that you might do that you can track over time.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll have a little bit of a look at each of those. The tool that we're going to be using, obviously, we're looking at our Office 365 suite. And I think, when people think data, Microsoft Excel is kind of the winner there. Really great at storing the information, obviously, again, in our cloud ecosystem, which means it doesn't matter where it's shared in the team, it can talk to each other because it's in that cloud-based environment. If it was an Excel document saved on someone's desktop or in a local storage, some of these processes just don't work. So we're leveraging that cloud capacity there, which is great. So to start with, let's open up an example markbook. So this might be something that you can set up yourself. It doesn't need to be this kind of fancy, I guess, in terms of colors and other things. There is a bunch of what we call conditional formatting. So if you're not too familiar with Excel, conditional formatting can simply make a cell with a particular number into a different color, or it can, change it into an icon, do a whole range of things depending on what you put in there. This conditional formatting is, I guess, reasonably simple. All we're looking at is 1s, 2s, and 3s being put into a particular cell, and all it does is change it into an arrow and a color. So a 1 is represented by an arrow being down, meaning that they're probably below a stage expectation for that one. 2 is like an at, saying they're about at stage expectation, and a 3 is above an arrow. So I like the visuals for that kind of thing, but you could very easily just keep it as 1s, 2s, and 3s and just add a color, which is a really simple conditional formatting. But the way I guess this markbook has been laid out is, if we do go back one page to the grades page here, what we're doing is we're connecting information. We've got a lot of kind of errors here because it's drawing on no data, so it's getting confused because it's pulling on a blank cell. That's why that's there. But if I do click on these cells, you'll notice the information at the top here. It's not actually something that I'm typing into this page. This is actually pulling it from, you can see the measurement and geometry page, and it's coming from cell 8B. So if I do go into the measurement geometry page over here, and I go down to 8B, which is across here, that's that one there. Oh, no, it's not. I need to drag across here, back to B. There we go. So it's pulling it from the average here. So student 5, their average is at, because it's added up the current information. So I guess this is the page where the information goes. If I put a 1 in this box here, starts as a 1. When I click off it, the conditional formatting kicks in and it turns it into an arrow, and it'll change the average for that student. So if I keep putting in some low grades for that one, you'll notice that the average here, which is working out the average there. So it's just a matter of putting in that word or grabbing that formula and averaging out all the cells across there. So a nice kind of quick, easy way. You can have this open on your laptop. You could have this open on your main learning display. You could have it up on an iPad. I guess the value of it being in the cloud means you can access it anywhere. You've also got it at home when you're really, really probably doing reports and those sorts of things. You can access that information and not have to carry all that kind of content around.
If you want to take this a little bit further, and you could even export, if you're obviously using your Google Classroom and you're setting grades against your assignments, you could export. If you had an assignment that was assessing time, for example, you could pull the grades straight out of that assignment, paste it in here, have conditional formatting do its thing. But again, it's having that consistent scale of how you're going to assess your students. This one being for probably a stage 1 class.
Yep, it could be for any stage, I guess. This is being an example. And I guess we're slowly drawing the connections between, making some efficiencies. So I've only got to put the information in once over here into a particular section. It then averages out for me once it's been built out. And I can also go to the overarching grade section and just see how each student is going across all the different areas there for that particular one. So that's, I guess, a bit of a classroom teacher's look at what it could look like for a digital markbook there, being saved in the cloud, constantly updating. You can see like autosave is on. I've also got version history here, so I can go back and see any changes that have been made over time as well. This particular page could be connected to another supervisor's Excel book, and we'll show what that could look like as well in a moment, to actually collate multiple classes into one nice Excel sheet to make that, I guess, easier to access and more efficient. And we'll show you that now. So let's jump onto a different page here, and we do have them all saved in here. I'll just show you where the content is. So we're going to our stage 1 file section, and these are all the Excel documents here. So they're all saved in this Teams location, meaning everyone has access to them and equal access as well. There is one Excel book that's actually saved into our principals location here, and that's going to be the master sheet. So we're going to show how we can pull content from, say, a year 1 teacher, a year 2 teacher, and then so on and so forth, and actually have all that represented in a single document so that an executive member or a principal can actually view some of that content really, really easily.
And the fact fact that it lives in the cloud makes it highly linkable. It's very easy. But it's the good old, you don't know what you don't know. And hopefully we'll show you a really quick example. And this is something you'd work on over time. It's probably not something you would do, tomorrow necessarily. But yeah, so you've got the same data here. You've got this year 1 content here on the right that the teacher's just entered his or her assessment for the class. And that data is then mirrored over in the principal document, where the principal is able to do some conditional formatting for themselves. It doesn't affect the teacher. Teacher side looks exactly the same as what the teacher put in, but on the left, it gives the principal some flexibility to manipulate that data to suit them.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess it's kind of like a one-way train, if that makes sense. So the right-hand side is then mirrored onto the left-hand side, or the classroom teacher's content is mirrored into this master sheet over here. And then you can see how we've made extra tabs, one for year 1, and then there could be a whole bunch of more students underneath. What we've done here is we've worked out an average. So we've just pressed the equal symbol, typed in average, and then selected all the cells here for it to work out an average for me. That's not happening over here on this page, because the classroom teacher is just putting the information. They might be interested in the average and they could do that themselves as well. But I guess what it's about is making it easy for staff members to input data and easy for executive staff members to analyze that data and collect it and keep it as a whole school view. So this is one class here. And again, you can see when I click on a cell, it doesn't actually have any numbers in the information. It's actually pulling it from the year 1 Excel sheet. And it's telling me exactly where that information is stored, and that's coming from over here. And
that makes it a live document, doesn't it? So if you made a change on the teacher side, it will automatically update on the principal side.
Yeah, absolutely. So if I had some blank cells, so let's go down onto this one and say all this information here was wrong, and I deleted it out. Oops, didn't delete all of that, did it? Let's do a double. We'll go one at a time. There we go. You can see as I delete that, it's live on the Excel sheet over there. So it's taken that information out, and then as I re-add it in, I might have some extra data here. I might have made a mistake and I skipped a column, so now I've got to put the correct data in, and it's live and updating as I go. So these are 2 completely separate documents. They're also saved in different locations in the team, which is great. They might even have different permission sets connected to them as well. So the whole data might only be accessible to executive staff, but each classroom teacher is putting their own information in there. So that live link is really easy. And we'll show you how to connect that now, which is actually quite simple, surprisingly simple for something that is pretty useful in a school.
And a lot of the conversations that we've had with teachers is Excel is something that they know is there, but they're not 100% sure how to use. So it could be, for school leaders out there watching this, there could be an area of development for your staff.
So I'm going to open up a year 2 Excel sheet. Again, they're probably doing the same tests or similar tests. We've got student names going down the side. So all I need to do in my master sheet is go across to a tab. That's my year 2 tab. And I click the top box up here. Then I just click the press equals up here. And then I want all of the content over here to equal, or I guess these blank cells to equal what's over here. So I just click in the top corner here on student name, and I scroll down to the very bottom, I guess, corner of where the information is. So D is my column here, 31 is my row. So I'm going to line that up, and I'll hold the shift button on the keyboard and click, and it's captured all of that information. You can see it's captured it from the year 2 Excel book. Because it's in the cloud, it's allowed to pull it from there because it's got permissions, telling me the cells that I want, and then all I do is just press enter, and it populates that information, and that's it. There's no kind of magic formula that we need. We don't need to remember anything too crazy. It's connected now. So anything that I put on the right-hand side, that year 2 book, and it will be mirrored over on that left-hand side. And you can see all those zeros, because they're zeros, because it's pulling on the right-hand side, there's nothing there. So it's picking up that it's nothing, and that's exactly as it should be.
And then from that principal side, it's really easy to provide some additional conditional formatting. I might want it to show up as a color scale, or I think we showed data bars in the last one. So if I check that, you're going to get this representation. Doesn't interfere with the teacher at all on this side, but the principal can see that at a whole scale. And we took it one step further, and in sheet 1, so in this master spreadsheet, you've got year 1 data, you've got year 2 data, but then we've created a graph that draws on all of that data in sheet 1. And then you can start identifying trends and things that happen over time if you'd like to keep a close eye on your student growth and attainment.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess once school leadership or those analysing data get quite confident in Excel, they might be adding quite a few different formulas.
Yep.
They might be merging some averages together, and exactly what Jared said, we want to be mapping those trends. but obviously the classroom teacher probably doesn't really have time to manage all of those complex rules, those sorts of things. They can be a bit easy to break sometimes if you're in a hurry and you're putting information in and it's got a particular rule and you put the data in the wrong spot, you can break that master sheet. So I guess what this does, it makes it really simple for the classroom teacher to input their data, but really effective for our leadership to manage and have that information come across. It's also really easy to see what data is missing. So you might have a particular test with no data. You don't need to go and, open up another document and check and see whether it's there or not, whether it's been saved in the wrong spot, those sorts of things. You've just got one Excel to put it into and one Excel that's collecting it all. So I guess drawing on those efficiencies.
100%. So something to investigate with having all your files living in the cloud. It allows them to all link together really easily. And hopefully we've shown you in this example, a really simple way to start getting some consistency across the school in the way that you collect that data.
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess the next thing we'll jump to is something in Teams by using templates. And this is a fairly, it's a pretty straightforward addition to a team, and you can have as many of these as you like, but it's using a template. So some of the feedback that we've heard from schools is around, I've got like a letterhead or a pre-written note or things like that, and people keep editing the master. So you can turn that into a template here in Teams quite easily. If you go up to the new option here, you go down, you've got add template. Now, quite often you just need to have like a Word doc or whatever it is that you'd like your template to be. You are limited in what could be a template. For the most part, Word docs work quite well. So let's take the school letterhead for an example. One of the things that say, I've saved a letterhead into the team. I think I put it here in my stage 2. No, I put it in RFF, didn't I? Yeah. All the places to put it. Makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? But I've got this letterhead here from my 8 Central School. If I open this right now, it would edit the master. So I could, I'm going to go up here to new, and I'm going to add a template. And it's going to ask me where that template is. Now I could see, this may or may not work, but I'm going to go into my desktop syncing, and this is my RFF folder. There's that letterhead, and I'm going to say open. And it may or may not add it. And it did, there it is. So it did just add it from within the team. Now the letterhead is a template. I could go to any space in my team. I might go down to stage 3. I've got a new excursion coming up. I want to use the school's letterhead. I'm going to say new, and I'm going to say, give me a new letterhead. And this might be, let's say the good old Canberra excursion. I say create. It's going to go grab a copy of that file. We've got this set to open the desktop version. We're in a web layout at the moment. Let me just change that view to print layout. And there is my header for my 8 Central School. And oops, good typing there, but you get the idea. Away you go. And there is our letterhead that looks, it's my own copy. I haven't messed with the master, and then you can do that at any space you like. If we jump back to our team, there's that Canberra excursion has popped up. Maybe the principal has a letter they need to send to the parents, same thing, files, new, give me the letterhead. That might be letter to the parent, same thing. Oh, great typing there.
Almost got it.
Almost got it, but then there you go. It's going to open up another copy of that file, a different one. And away I go, and we haven't messed with the master.
I guess a couple of fold benefit there in terms of you're launching it straight into team space, so it's automatically saved in the cloud. It's in the right place. It's made you name it first off as well, which is great, and it just keeps those letters consistent. So I guess your office might have a few of those documents that they want to have available for teachers to use. But as Jared said, they're nervous that someone's going to go and accidentally change something. Usually, I'd say 99% of the time, it's not on purpose. People just think they're editing their one, and they all of a sudden realize, oh, I've accidentally changed the wrong one. And then usually the office staff or someone needs to remake it or pull it back to the right version or those sorts of things. So removes that confusion, has it in a place that's really obvious in terms of new. Why don't we just very quickly, Jared, just jump into that edit new menu option. So if you have added a couple, over on the right-hand side, so Jared went to new, pop down to the bottom and edit menu. And you can actually go in here, you can choose to get rid of or reorder some particular things. So you might have some of those, you might move those options right to the top to make it really obvious for where teachers want to find them. Or you can also go in and actually edit the template once it's there as well. So you've got options to go in there and actually edit it. So if you do update sometimes schools update the letterhead, or you might have a particular beginning section at the very top of the notes that is something new, or there might be a new email address at the bottom, all sorts of different things. You can update that letterhead really, really easily, and then update that template really easily, and then you know that that's current for absolutely everyone. You've only got to change that one document rather than all of them across the.
And it changes it then for every new menu and every channel.
Yep.
Super handy little feature. Now, one area where this doesn't work so nicely is using the migrated file spaces. Because in the Faculty Drive channel, it's probably likely if you're at the stage that you're using this, with the migrated data, quite often your teacher migrated folder is pretty massive. And there's actually quite a lot of content in there that hasn't been touched in many years. It's quite a good practice to maybe move, if you haven't done so and you've started to build out, it's that teacher space that we recommend that you break into channels and folders to disseminate your data. So it's more accessible. If you're still wholly and solely working out of these spaces, adding a template in here sometimes doesn't work because these are all separate SharePoints. So if that's the case, there is a little workaround if you'd like a template style of the document. So maybe I'll jump into this linked, and I know it's linked because it's got here. And I'm going to get a document. I might even be able to grab this document, for example. I want that to be, I'm going to grab a share link for this. I want to copy a link, but I want to make sure that the sharing settings on this file, and it is set to view only. By making a share link view only, that means nobody else, although they'll have to save a copy for them to be able to edit it. So I'm going to take that share link. I can go back into my team space. And I'm in this Faculty Drive. I could go new, and I could add a new link. And that'll pop out this little area on the side. And where is the link? I'm going to do Control on keyboard, Control V, paste that there. And what's my link? This is a, I don't know, let's just call it the letterhead for now. And I'll say create. And in this space, I've already got, I already have one called letterhead. So it's going to be letterhead 2. Excellent, very creative. Letterhead 2 will appear here in a moment, and if it doesn't, I'll just refresh the file list. Let's just go into this folder. Let's go back. There it's there, letterhead2.url. So by doing that, as soon as I click it, the file's going to pop up. Now, yes, this is a little glitch in our particular browser, so just ignore that. But when it opens up, it'll be open in the view only file save as. Away you go, start your work. So a little workaround if you're still using these Faculty Drive migrated spaces. But as we said, good idea to take that teacher one and break it into bite-sized pieces. You may choose to do that to the other spaces when you're ready.
I guess even if you own these spaces, I guess the general channel is also always there.
Yes.
So the general channel could be where you generate those templates from and those sorts of things. But yeah, getting it back into those spaces, it might be a little move, or it might be using that link.
Yeah.
But definitely, I guess it shows the capacity for room for growth into teams and those sorts of things. There are some efficiencies. We showed a couple of things last time with tabs and pinning folders and all those sorts of things. So Teams has a lot of kind of room for growth for efficiency.
Yes.
So it's worth investigating if your school is okay using those spaces, or if you can see some productivity gain from actually moving into some channel structures and utilizing that.
100%. So yeah, have a look at the templates. It's figure out what you're using as a template right now, digitize it.
Now, another thing, Jared, that we're looking at in terms of Teams as well, I guess, and it's going to utilize another tab, which is great. Mm-hmm. I think in every school in the state, most likely, we have a giant whiteboard, probably in the hallway, maybe in the staff room, and that has all of the calendar events for the whole year in whiteboard marker.
Yes.
Usually some black tape, got all that going on, all the dates, which is great, really effective, but it is only stored in one place, and you've got to walk to the hallway or walk to the staff room to see what's going on. Let's have a look. We're going to have a look at maybe utilizing our team and the SharePoint in the back end to actually generate a digital calendar that either might work in conjunction with that physical calendar, or I do know for some schools they've actually gotten rid of the whiteboard and they're relying fully on a digital calendar.
100%. And then, being able to access it from anywhere is the key. So to add a calendar to our team, we're going to jump over to SharePoint, the example. There are a few ways of getting a calendar, but the easiest one is to open your file space. So I've gone to the general channel, open up the file space to get into SharePoint. Here in SharePoint, we're going to jump over to site contents here at the side, and we're going to add an app to our back-end storage space.
And I'll just point out, Jared, if you can highlight with your mouse, where it says primary team 8 central school example, right at the end there, you'll see a little Teams icon. That's a really good thing to look for to make sure you know that the SharePoint that you're in is actually being drawn from your Microsoft Teams. So sometimes people go into SharePoints and there might have been a couple of old ones created. So if you go direct through SharePoint and you don't see that little Teams icon, it means it's a SharePoint that's kind of by itself, might have been created by someone personally or something. So it's just worth making sure that it's your Microsoft Teams SharePoint backend and not just something else, because you might be making a calendar in a random place as well.
So I'm going to go here to new, and we're going to add a new app to our SharePoint, which we'll be able to represent in our team. Here it comes up here. Now, not very obvious here. However, if you read the fine print, it does say to add a calendar, you need to go to the classic experience. So we're going to click on that. And one of those apps down here is the calendar. And as soon as we choose calendar, it's going to ask us, what would you like to call the calendar? So we might just call it 8. I'm just going to call it 8CS, 8 Central School Cal. And I'm going to say, yes, that is the app that I would like. And it's going to grab that and it's going to put it into my site contents. Here I can open the calendar, and we're going to get a link from this calendar and put it in our team. So I just chose that from the list just to sort of
I guess the best thing about, if you follow the flow, we've gone to our team, we've gone to the SharePoint of our team. So the team's permissioning, so all the members and owners of that team flow into this calendar. So that's, I guess, to explain the reason why we went through our team, is because our team is managed and our membership is managed there. And we want that management to flow into anything else that we're doing. We don't want to create something separate that we then got to manage another set of permissions. We want our core set of permissions to flow into the calendar as well.
This task is something you do once and it's just there forever. So let's add an event to tomorrow, which might be, let's just say it's the cross county, American cross country. You can set a time, or you can set it as an all-day event by clicking this box down here. But I'm just going to say it is up until 1. Whatever details you need, hit save, and there it is. There's that one. Maybe a day after that, you might have...
probably got our school photos on that day, I think, don't we?
Yeah, busy week. School photos, and let's just make that an all-day event. And say, okay, by saying all-day event, it takes the times away. School photos. So that's, you fill out that calendar as you need. Now here, when I click on calendar, there's 2 things you could do. Firstly, I want this URL. I'm going to copy that URL, Control-C on my keyboard, and we're going to paste that as a tab in our team. Therefore, it'll make it accessible to everybody. The other thing you could do, as I said, when I went to this calendar tab, you can connect this to your personal Outlook if you're using the downloaded app. And it works quite well having that pop in there if you need it. For the most part, I'm just going to take that URL. I'm going to jump back into my team space, and here at the top, click on the little plus. And I'm just going to add a website link, just like we showed earlier. And this is going to be the calendar. Be as inventive with that as you choose. Control-V for that link and say go. And our school calendar now appears in our general channel with all the events. And it's really easy to add. I can just click here at any time and add another event to whatever it is that week. Just going to do a nonsense event for the sake of example.
That's a great Friday afternoon.
That's a great Friday afternoon activity.
That's pretty about what we're doing like on a Friday afternoon.
100%.
Fantastic.
So yeah, just a really easy way to get that in there. Anyone at school at any time can look up. They don't have to go to the staff room or to the hallway to find out what's happening in a school.
Yep. Great visibility for teachers down in the classrooms. Great visibility for the office. They don't need to walk down and have a conversation with someone. You've got that real clear communication. You can see who's adding events. You've got that flexibility of lots of people adding their own content in there as well. Because as we know, lots of teachers are organising lots of events in schools, not always the same people. So a real good kind of, I guess, either in conjunction with a physical one, or it might look to be replacing that kind of physical calendar.
Absolutely. And I guess the only downside, and it's a question we've had quite a few times, can we colour code it? As teachers, we do love a bit of colour coding, but it is possible. It's really, really tricky, so I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah.
For the most part, you're just going to get the bog standard colorization here. So Quick answer, no. Long answer, maybe, but it's quite painful.
Yeah, probably not worth the effort.
Yeah, you have to make a series of different calendars and lay one over the top of the other. It's too hard basket.
Perfect. So we covered, I guess, covering a few nice little efficiencies and utilizing cloud features. Next one we're going to look at is utilizing forms. So we've kind of mentioned forms, I think, previously.
Yeah.
But we're going to dive into a little bit of Microsoft Forms and see how that could possibly be used. Probably more so in the admin realm of things. They can definitely be used with classroom in the classroom for exit slips or as even a formative assessment, all those sorts of things. But we're going to have a little bit of a look at a form, and that's actually going to kind of go one step further and use a form in a actual Microsoft flow, which is going to be a really interesting way of, I guess, removing maybe a few emails from the email trail of organizing and getting approvals.
So I just need, for what we need to show next, I am just going to connect my laptop, hopefully, if it decides to pick up kind of whilst connecting my screen. There it is. Cool. So here, a basic form that I have created to gather some data from a professional learning request, which is going to tie in a little bit to what we're going to do next. Also, it sort of ties into what processes exist at your school that you feel could be better digitized. What are you doing from a long email chain right now that could be turned into a digital or an automated sequence? So using forms is a great way for anyone in the school. So like you could make a professional learning request form that in the past might have been a paper-based activity, which is really easy to turn into a form. And then what it is we do with that form afterwards, we've got a few options.
I guess before we, I just thought, Joe, before we go in there, just to show everyone where forms kind of live within the realm of the Microsoft 365 kind of platform. Up the top left-hand corner, we've got our little waffle menu.
Yes.
Next to forms. So once you're in your Office 365 landing page, you normally see all of these things, and forms is just, I guess, another one of these great Microsoft tools that sit within that space. So you can 100%. Head into there. You'll obviously see the ones that Jared's been working on, and then that's where they live. Another good side note, just to mention, once Jared goes into these forms, the ones at the top are, I guess, personal forms, or they live in your personal storage location. If we scroll to the bottom of forms, you'll actually see group forms down here. So those are forms that are actually connected to teams. So a really good differentiation between, is this a form for me? So maybe a classroom teacher. Yeah. I'll be creating a form for my class. Yeah, that's pretty much just for me to collect data about my students. Perfect. If it's something that we actually want all staff to be able to have the data for or be able to view, then you might choose to click on your team and actually create the form in the team. So just a good distinction between those two places. Yes. There's some great benefits from creating a group form inside the team, but also some different benefits from creating in your own space. So, 100%,
yeah, especially when we get into the Power Automate, which we'll talk about in a moment. So it defaults to new quiz, but I'd make a new form. Easy to make, like a self-marking maths form in here. If I just, let's just make this a, I guess this is not really a form. I probably should have done a quiz if I wanted to make it self-marking. So maybe this one will be, maybe you're just gathering some, maybe it's a survey response.
I tried something new in the school, you're trying to get some response from students, might be a new behaviour plan that's happening, or some kind of, that kind of thing. You're just trying to get some data from the students.
It's got some pretty good AI sort of built into the back of forms. It does give you some recommendations to the type of questions. The good thing about this, it's a bit of a time saver. For this first question, maybe we'll start with a text-based one, and that text-based one could be my name. I might make that required because it's a little bit hard if people don't put their names in. You can trigger this to say, capture their email address as well, which helps. And then, you've got this little plus. What's your next question? Maybe your next question will be multiple choice. Did you like options, option 1, 2, 3. I can add multiple options down the side of the page. Also a required answer to send off. So I won't go into too much detail about building a form, because I more want to focus in a moment on how I can use a form to gather responses. But one of the cool things about a Microsoft form, when I do click give me a response, I can choose to, I could paste this link. I quite like checking the short URL. I don't know about you, Adam. I quite often choose that one.
Absolutely.
And get the short version. I copy that. I paste it somewhere in my team or online or in an email, wherever it is that you want to get it out. If you're doing this with the students, drop it into your team's classroom or whatever space that you're using. But I also like the fact by just clicking here, I can grab a QR code. Even though generating QR codes is pretty easy these days, the fact that it's one click away, download that image, pop it somewhere for parents to scan that on their way past on a mobile phone.
So easy.
So yeah, so that's just a really quick rundown. If you want to do it, you can do this live. You can hit present, and as people answer your quiz, you will see live results pop up if you use that present function. Just to quickly circle back for a moment, I'm just going to click back here on forms, and this time I'm going to say new quiz. Thank you, Microsoft, for your suggestions. New quiz. This is where you can get that self-marking form. Because if it was a maths quiz, 1 + 1 equals, it's a matter of choosing which one is the right answer. By that little tick, that's the right answer. There are a few little maths toggles you can turn on to help you make that a mathematical. You can enter an equation here and it gives you some extra functionality. I just wanted to highlight that as an option for teachers. The self-marking quizzes, they save a lot of time. I don't know about the amount of hours that you spent sitting there ticking.
Ticking or crossing. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
just certain things.
Even once you do that paper test, and maybe you have marked and spent time doing it, it was really valuable, you've still got that result on a piece of paper. Really hard to capture that information. So then you've got to take that information or data, input it somewhere else. So it's a triple handling, you've got to mark it, you've got to input it somewhere, you're going to keep that somewhere. So this, I guess, takes those three different aspects and just stores it in one nice, usable, accessible location.
100%. But the reason why we sort of jumped into forms for a moment, because I want to, there is a nice sort of workflow when we're going from that refining into that innovative space is, can I take a simple form like this that used to be paper and process it with the end user only needs to click a button and it's all a digitized response. So to do that, we're going to jump into something called Microsoft Power Automate. Now to find that, if I open a new tab, I'm going to jump across here really quick to my Microsoft Home. Just like what Adam mentioned before, we can click here on the little waffle. And I do have Power Automate that's popped up here. If it doesn't pop up for you, you may have to say Explore All Apps. And again, you might have to say All Apps. And it'll give you the full list. Power Automate was one of those lists here. So if I jump up into the Power Automate that I've already got opened, now this is a little bit of a complicated thing. It works best when it does sit in a single user's profile, which is not ideal. I would rather have these live in a team space, but from the level of what we want to do, it would be very simple to have that just in a personal workflow. And there are ways of transferring that ownership of those workflows to someone else if you want to leave the school. I'm going to use a template to create this flow. At the moment, I have one example flow that I tried, but I got that from just opening a template. So some of the work's already been done for us in order to get this. So this template that I'm going to run, I want to take a response from a form and I want to send an email based on their answer. So if they want to go to a professional learning event, can they go, can they not go? So to get that, I just need to look for form approval. Enter, might help. And there is one that's been used many, many times before. I'm going to choose that process. And I just need to double check that it does link to me. If it doesn't link for you straight away, you may have to just click on one of these and just allow that. You put your info in there. Let's say continue.
So I guess using these templates, Jared, means you don't really need to be an absolute expert in which order things go in. It's kind of set it out for you. You're just putting in some of the extra information.
That's right. So the first thing I need to get is says when a form is submitted, what's my form? So I can go get a link from my, because I've created that form, I'm going to get rid of this. And straight away, it's come up with a list of forms that I have access to that I've written, and it's tapping into my Microsoft 365 forms to find it. So I should have one here called There it is, professional learning request form, which is the one I have open in the second tab. I say OK. And I then need to also add that to this next one that says get the response details, because this is my form. And then this next one here says, cool, that's your form. Go and get all the details from said form.
It's just
there. And it gives me an ID for that form. The next thing it goes into, which is part of the template, says, all right, let's start the approval process. First to respond, I'm just going to say that this is a PL request submission, whatever name you want to give it. Who's it going to be assigned to? So in this process, I'm going to assign it to myself. And it should look me up. There I am. And then I can put some details in here. Now I can draw some details straight out of that form.
You can see there's a pop-up down the bottom right-hand corner. It keeps, every time, you might probably notice, every time Jared clicks somewhere, it's offering him to add dynamic content, which is great. So it's pulling that information from the Microsoft form, because we've identified what form we want. And I guess for someone who's not too familiar with this, it's kind of actually making a fair bit of sense. You've just got to select, choose from the forms that are yours, and then now it's offering you some of the answers from that form. So it's not overly complicated. Yeah,
I can choose what I'd like to do with it. So I might say your name, being the person that entered their name, has requested to attend. PL event date. No, I need
name of event. Just down a couple.
Oh yeah, name event.
Yep.
And that's probably enough, because that will ping me in my teams to say yes. I would like
I mean, I kind of like the flow of that thing. So you could have has requested name event, it will cost, and then you could put the cost amount in.
Yeah, you could.
The event will be on, PL event date. So you can kind of just build out a nice little sentence. So whoever's reading it gets all the info they need really quickly, and they can make a decision on that without having to, I guess, open anything else.
100%. So once that's in here and we've added that, it's prompted us to say, what do we want to do with that? So we're going to say that the current answer, when it's approved, if I tick approved in Teams, what's that going to say? So who's it going to send it to? Well, it's going to send it to the person that sent me the email. So I'm going to scroll down here again, choose dynamic content, and I can choose responder's email. And then the subject could be this, and then here in the body of that same email message, I can say you are approved to attend. And just like before, dynamic content. I'm going to scroll right down to name of event. You could add more details, but for now that's fine. And likewise, if it's a no, add dynamic content, same responder, request rejected. That'll do for now. And make sure you hit save at the end of that task. Okay. So if I go up here, hopefully this works. It may or may not, depending on the environment that I'm working in today. But I preview my form, and I'm going to be going to attend an event next week. It's going to be, oops, vision. Good typing there today. I think I missed an N in there somewhere.
Maybe a T as well.
Yeah, probably. Cost, whatever, $1,000, $10,000,
million gold pieces. I think it'd be.
Yeah, I like me, and I probably need a casual.
Yes, that's a long journey to the Dragon Convention. Perfect.
And so then, in theory, I should in my teams, pending that I'm open to the right place.
I think you just got a notification as well.
I did. So here in approvals, it's going to pop up, and then I can approve that request. And it's then going to pop out an email to the person requesting the event and let them know whether they can or they can't go.
Perfect. So I guess that notification process, is there a couple of different aspects there? Because I noticed you added an email address in there. So does it get sent to an email address as well as a notification to a person's Microsoft team?
That's right.
Excellent. Cool.
Yeah, well, so actually the responder will just probably get the email. They'll get an email saying, yes, you can or can't go. And for me as the authorizer, I will get a notification in Teams. I also get sent an email saying, notifying me that there is an approval waiting to be processed.
Perfect.
So a little bit of a complicated process. It is a real beast doing Power Automate. I am by no means an expert in any way. Very, very, very basic, quite new to this space, but I quite like that workflow. It's definitely going to save time standing at the principal's door at lunchtime behind the queue of other people that need to talk to them on the day that they might be there. If you can digitize this could just be simple yes, no. You choose who that authorizing person is. You can have more than one authorizer. A lot of content out there available online. We recommend you to check it out and have a look.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess to start with, if you're diving into the space, keep it really simple. Probably some advice: keep the flow simple. Yes. Use the templates that are available because they're the templates are there because they work. If you just go diving in and starting from a blank Power Automate, you're not too familiar with the space. You might get yourself in a bit of a knot. But yeah, I guess in that time probably took you about 10 minutes.
Yeah,
I think,
wasn't
to build that out and tested it, and it worked. So not a huge amount of time investment to make something simple like that. That could then, I guess, speed up workflows for the whole year. So definitely worth getting in there. It's also, again, building on some of those efficiencies within Teams. You get notified in Teams. Pops up, you know that it's going to be seen. It doesn't get lost in all the other emails as well, with all that kind of thing. And there's none of that, too much of that back and forth. So I would send an email, say, can I go? Then you get the email back. When is it? How much does it cost? Give me that information. You send it back again. Then 3 or 4 emails later, you might have figured out whether we're going or not. Or more than likely, you'll send the email and then go talk to the person in person anyway. So now you've done the job twice. Whereas this can kind of tidy all that up. And whether it's a yes or no almost instantly.
And especially if you're a big school. So that's just a workflow that might work for you in your school. It's not something you have to dive into, but an option there to improve the efficiency of that process. And I'm sure there's lots of processes out there, Adam, that you could look at in that instance. If you're not using, say, Central for learning support, you could do that for a learning support request of some kind.
Yep.
You could just have that. That could just be a form that you input data from that gets logged in a spreadsheet. And you add that at that point. So there are a lot of processes out there that probably have traditionally been paper-based. What can you do at your school to maybe digitize those moving forward? Yeah,
absolutely. Utilizing Microsoft Forms to start with. You might dive into flows, you might not. That's definitely an optional thing. But I think, digitizing some of those manual processes, especially maybe when communicating with the office in that kind of respect, that keeping that kind of stuff digital. Often it's a manual process to fill in something that usually travels to the office, and then they end up digitizing that manual process anyway. So let's try and, I guess, take out any of that double handling that we can with paperwork and those sorts of things, and try and capture it in a way that is really easily transferable and accessible by all staff.
Absolutely. So they're just some tips from that refining point of view that helps you move into that sort of more innovating space. Remember, if you are watching this as a webinar, please throw any questions you have in the chat and someone will answer you there. If you are watching this as a recording, a couple of email addresses down the bottom that you can reach out for further support if you need it. But yeah, so there's a lot of efficiencies to be found in the fact that your files now live in the cloud. That can improve your workflows, and a lot of the time it's just small things that when you add all those small things together, it becomes quite a powerful time-saving activity.
Absolutely. So I guess looking for connections where you can make them, looking to see where links can be made, how can data storage and collection be made more efficient, how can processes be made more efficient. So really looking at some of those flows, or how can we use that forms and collection with our students to gather information from them quickly, efficiently, and actually be able to action it in the classroom as well from some of those, using forms and those higher level of assignments.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much you can do. And if you're doing something really great out there, that you've got a nice, efficient workflow, please share it with us. Absolutely. We would love to share that with other people as we gather this knowledge, as we interact with more and more schools.
Perfect. Well, thanks for joining us, and excited to see where you can go from here, reaching towards the end, I guess, of what we have to show you. And I'm excited to see where the cloud can take us.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.